Dear friend, when our hearts are wounded, when our souls are lost, caught between many paths, when life seems to lack light, prayer is the place to return to. It doesn't require complex words. No need for elaborate rituals, just a heart that knows how to be still. A heart that opens up. A heart that speaks honestly to God. When the disciples saw Jesus pray, they were not just surprised, they longed for it. They said to him, "Lord, teach us to pray." Luke 11:1. And Jesus, with all his gentleness, taught them a prayer not too long, but enough to embrace all of life. He said, "Then this is how you should pray. Our Father who art in heaven, hallowed be thy name. Thy kingdom come, thy will be done on earth as it is in heaven. Give us this day our daily bread, and forgive us our debts, as we also have forgiven our debtors. And lead us not into temptation, but deliver us from evil." Do you notice? This is not just a text from a liturgical prayer. This is the path of prayer, a path that leads you back to your identity as a child of the Father in heaven, the deep longing for God's kingdom to come, simple trust, asking for daily bread, humility, asking for forgiveness and to forgive, and surrender when facing temptation and evil. This prayer is not meant only to be read. It is meant to be lived, for your inner being to merge with each word, and for each word to permeate your life like morning dew on the grass. Prayer is not about changing God's mind. It is about allowing God to change your heart, lightening it, filling it with light, and making it belong to Him more completely. Dear friend, the first thing Jesus teaches us to say is not a command, not a complaint, but a call. Our Father. Those two words, seemingly simple, are the key that opens the heart of God. When you say Our Father, you are letting go of a distorted image of a distant God or a harsh judgmental deity. When you say Our Father, you are returning to your deepest identity, a child of a good Father who is always loving and never abandons. Jesus did not teach us to call God Almighty. He didn't say to call God the majestic Creator. He said, Our Father, because He knows if prayer doesn't begin with love, it will only be fear. Our Father is not my Father alone. It is our Father in the community, because faith is not a solitary journey, but a walk together under the shadow of one Father. Who art in heaven doesn't mean God is far away, but that He transcends all earthly limitations. He sees the entire picture of your life, even when you can only see the blurry steps ahead. Perhaps you've had a good father, or perhaps you've never truly felt the image of a true father. But when you say Our Father, you are not calling on a shadow from the past. You are speaking to the one who loves you perfectly, a Father who never rejects, never hurts, and is never absent. Dear friend, even when you don't know how to pray, even when all you can do is sigh, start with two words, Our Father. Because in that call, there is enough faith, hope, and love. For even Jesus began every prayer with that gentle call. And if you remember only one thing in your prayer life, remember this: you always have a Father waiting for you to speak to Him. Dear friend, after calling God our Father, our prayer does not revolve around I first, but begins with God. Hallowed be thy name. What does this mean? It means we desire God's name to be known, loved, and honored not only on our lips, but throughout the world. Not just in church, but right in the middle of daily life, in our work, words, and actions every day. Thy kingdom come. When you say this, you are opening your heart to receive God's loving power. Where? Not in some distant land, but in your heart, in your family, in the places of chaos and pain in life. You are asking God's reign to come, not to dominate, but to heal. You are inviting Him in, not to give orders, but to lead the way. Thy will be done on earth as it is in heaven. This is one of the most powerful lines of prayer because it requires you to let go of yourself, let go of your own plans, let go of even the things you think are good, to ask for the best, God's will. Sometimes what you wish for doesn't happen. Sometimes what you fear draws near. But if you can say, "Thy will be done," then you will live with a deep peace, even when life is storming. Dear friend, the prayer Jesus teaches doesn't begin with asking for ourselves, but first points to God. Because when our hearts are rightly placed, God first, then ourselves, that's when everything else will fall into place. Peace doesn't come from getting everything we want. Peace comes from choosing the most important thing: God's name, God's kingdom, God's will. Dear friend, after turning our hearts toward God's name, God's kingdom, and God's will, Jesus teaches us to offer a prayer that is very ordinary, very human, and also very tender. Give us this day our daily bread. Do you see? Jesus didn't teach us to ask for a stockpile of food, nor did he tell us to pray for provisions for a whole year, a month, or even tomorrow. He teaches us to ask for today, just enough for one day's living. Because those who live in trust live one day at a time and not burdened with the future. This prayer is not just for physical bread, but for everything we need to live. A word of comfort at the right time, a small hope, a light to shine for today, and the strength to overcome the inner weariness. God knows what we need, but he still invites us to ask, because in asking, our hearts are opened, humbled, and bound closer to the one who provides. Praying for today, our daily bread, is also an invitation to live in the present, not worrying about the future, not regretting the past, but walking firmly in the light of one day, one grace, one breath. There are days when you have nothing to give but a sigh. There are days when you can barely stand, but even then you can whisper, "Give me this day enough strength to live with truth, enough bread to not despair, enough peace to not lose my way." Dear friend, God doesn't promise that you will always have an abundance, but he promises that you will never lack if you ask. And when you learn to live day by day with God's grace, you will see that worry fades away while peace remains. Dear friend, if something weighs heavy on your heart, if there is a burden that quietly makes your soul weary, it is sin and resentment. That is why Jesus teaches us to pray, "Forgive us our trespasses, as we forgive those who trespass against us." In this prayer, God doesn't just teach us to ask for forgiveness. He invites us into a journey to forgive others. Forgive is the easy part to say, but as we forgive, that's the part that makes many hesitate. Dear friend, take a moment. Think of someone who hurt you, who wounded you, or betrayed your trust. Is it easy to forgive that person? No, and God knows that. But God doesn't force us to forgive with logic. He invites us to start with compassion. When we ask God to forgive us, we are reminded that we too are debtors. We owe patience to God. We owe the unconditional love he gives us. So then, can we hold on to resentment toward others? Forgiveness doesn't erase the memory, but forgiveness frees our hearts from the chains of hatred. For hatred doesn't bind the other person, it binds us. Some may say, "I can't forgive," but the truth is, forgiveness is a grace. It comes when you ask. When you open your heart, even just a little, God will do the rest. As we forgive is not a condition, but a path you walk not alone, but with Jesus by your side. He, the one who forgave those who crucified him, will teach you every step to make your heart lighter and freer. Dear friend, when you forgive, You are not saying that the wrong was right, but you are choosing not to let that control you. You are choosing to live as a child, with a heart like your Father in heaven. Dear friend, if life is a journey, prayer is the inner compass, guiding us through all the traps of the world. And in the final line of the Lord's Prayer, Jesus invites us to humbly ask, "Lead us not into temptation, but deliver us from evil." What is temptation? Temptation is not just a grave sin, not just the obvious wrongs we can see, but also very small, subtle things that can slowly pull us away from God. Temptation could be the laziness in prayer, indifference to the pain of others, or apathy toward injustice. Sometimes temptation doesn't make us fall immediately, but it only needs to cool our hearts little by little, until one day we no longer feel the need for God. That's why Jesus teaches us to pray, not just to avoid temptation, but to not fall into it, not to give in, not to compromise with evil. Lead us not into means we are praying to be kept with wisdom to distinguish right from wrong, kept with strength to say no when we have to choose, kept awake so we don't fall into spiritual numbness. But deliver us from evil. In these words, we ask God to deliver us, not only from bad situations, but from the very roots of evil that lurk in our hearts. Evil may hide in jealousy, in doubt, in closure, and in divisive words. But most of all, the greatest evil is separation from God. Dear friend, we are weak, but through prayer, we are guided. We are vulnerable, but through trust, we are protected. And in every word of the Lord's Prayer, Jesus not only teaches us to pray, he teaches us to live with a heart that trusts, a heart that forgives, a heart that loves, and a heart that makes God everything. Dear friend, we've just walked through each word of the Lord's Prayer. A short prayer, but opening up an endless depth. Each word, each syllable, is a breath of the soul. Not foreign words, but very real whispers of a child speaking to their Father. Our Father who art in heaven. To remember that we are not alone. Hallowed be thy name. To live true to our identity as his light. Thy kingdom come, to invite God to reign in our hearts. Thy will be done, to let go and trust. Give us this day our daily bread, to live each day as a gift. Forgive us our trespasses. To be healed by the love of forgiveness. Lead us not into temptation. To be kept by God in the darkness of life. Prayer is not just an act, but a way of life. Not always needing many words, but always needing a present heart. You can breathe through the Lord's Prayer every day. You can start your morning with, "Our Father, today, I want to live with you." You can end a weary day with the words, "Forgive me and keep me in peace." Dear friend, let this prayer seep into every rhythm of your life. Let it become your natural breath, bringing you back to God in every circumstance. In joy, in sadness, in loneliness, or in hope. For when you pray as a child, you will live as one who is loved. And when you live as one who is loved, you will become light, reflecting the gentle face of the Father in heaven. Our Father, teach me to pray. Teach me to live in every prayer. And may my life be a living Lord's Prayer in the heart of the world. If you've touched something deep in your soul, leave an amen in the comments as a response. And don't forget to share this video as a gentle invitation to those who need some light and a spiritual breath in today's life. Thank you for your companionship. See you in the next reflective videos of In His Light.